Bikers threaten a girl in park. Elon Musk's heroism changes her life. The park was peaceful, the sound of children laughing and birds chirping filling the air. It was a beautiful, warm afternoon, and the wide, open green space seemed like the perfect place for young families and individuals to take a break from their busy lives. A little girl, around 9 years old, was walking alone near the edge of the park. Her name was Ella, a shy and reserved child who preferred reading her favorite books to socializing. Her parents had often told her to be careful, especially in the park, where groups of older kids sometimes gathered. But today, Ella wasn't worried. The park was always a safe place to her, one that she cherished. As she strolled near the trees, her eyes scanning the ground for interesting leaves or rocks, she heard the sound of loud motorcycles coming closer. The bikes revved loudly, causing Ella to jump slightly in surprise. She turned around and saw a group of bikers approaching, riding fast and without care. The group was a bit intimidating, rough-looking men with leather jackets, their faces hidden behind dark helmets. The noise from their bikes drowned out everything else. Ella tried to ignore them, stepping to the side to continue her walk, but the bikers were too close now. One of them, the leader of the group, took off his helmet, revealing his smirk. His eyes locked onto Ella, and a chill ran down her spine. "Hey, little girl," the leader called out, his voice rough. "What are you doing all alone out here?" Ella froze, her heart beating faster. She didn't respond. She had heard stories about people like this, people who didn't care about others' safety. She tried to step back, but the biker moved closer, blocking her path. "What's the matter?" the biker continued, his grin widening. "You're scared, aren't you?" Ella felt a wave of panic rise in her chest. She wanted to run, but she was too afraid to move. The bikers' friends, still mounted on their motorcycles, watched with interest, a few of them laughing. Ella was starting to feel trapped. The leader reached out, grabbing her arm tightly. "I think you owe us some respect, don't you?" Ella gasped, struggling to break free, but the biker's grip was firm. She was scared and didn't know what to do. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't expected to feel so powerless in a place that was supposed to be safe. Just as Ella's fear started to consume her, she noticed a black car driving slowly around the park's edge, making its way toward the area where she stood. The car stopped nearby, and the door swung open. Out stepped a familiar figure, Elon Musk, the tech billionaire, who had just been out for a walk after a meeting at a nearby tech center. He had come to enjoy the day, but as soon as he saw the situation unfolding, his expression shifted. Musk had been through his share of tense situations and had always made it a point to stand up for what was right. He wasn't about to let this moment slip by. He knew the importance of doing something when someone needed help, no matter who they were. Without hesitation, he moved toward the bikers. "Hey, let her go," Elon called out, his voice calm but commanding. The bikers turned their heads at the sound of his voice, surprised to see someone so confidently approaching them. The leader of the bikers narrowed his eyes at Musk, sizing him up. "What's your problem, man?" he sneered. "This is none of your business." Musk, unfazed, took a few more steps forward, his eyes focused on the biker. "It is now. Let her go, or I'll make it your problem." The tension in the air thickened. The bikers looked at each other, unsure of what to make of this sudden confrontation. Elon Musk wasn't the kind of person they expected to interfere. But there was something in his gaze, something resolute and unwavering, that made the group hesitant. "I don't think you want to take this any further," Musk continued, his voice steady. "I'm giving you a chance to walk away." The leader's grin faltered. He had seen Elon Musk in the news, of course. The tech mogul was known for his success, his boldness, and his refusal to back down in the face of adversity. The biker wasn't sure what to do now. His confidence wavered. For a moment, no one moved. It was as if time had slowed down, and Ella's breathing had become shallow and erratic as she waited for something to happen. Then, finally, the leader released his grip on Ella's arm, grumbling as he stepped back. He could sense that Elon wasn't bluffing, and he didn't want to risk any more trouble. The bikers muttered among themselves, looking away from the confrontation. "Yeah, whatever," the leader muttered, swinging his leg back over his motorcycle. The others followed suit, climbing onto their bikes and revving their engines. In a flash, they sped away, leaving a trail of dust behind them. Musk turned his attention back to Ella, his expression softening. He walked over to her and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Are you all right?" he asked. Ella nodded, though her hands were still shaking. "But I didn't know what to do." "You did the right thing by staying calm," Elon reassured her. "You're safe now." Ella looked up at him, her wide eyes filled with awe. "Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come." Elon smiled, kneeling down so that he was eye level with her. "You don't need to thank me. But I'm glad I was here to help." Ella's face brightened a little. She had been scared, but the unexpected heroism of Elon Musk had changed everything in that moment. She had seen someone act when others might have turned away, and that made all the difference. "Do you want me to walk you home?" Elon asked, standing up. "Make sure you get there safely?" Ella hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, please." Musk offered her a kind smile and took her hand. The two of them began walking through the park, leaving the scene behind them. The air seemed lighter now, as if the weight of the moment had been lifted. The park, which had once felt threatening, now seemed like a place of possibility and safety. As they walked, Ella couldn't help but look up at him in wonder. "Are you really Elon Musk?" He chuckled. "That's me. But today, I'm just someone helping out." Ella smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't had just minutes before. It wasn't just about the danger she had faced, it was about how people like Elon Musk could make a real difference in the lives of others. The rest of the walk passed in quiet contentment, and when they reached Ella's house, her mother was waiting at the door, having seen them approach. She rushed out to meet her daughter, wrapping her arms around Ella tightly. "Mom, I'm okay," Ella said, pulling away slightly to look at her mother. "I'm okay because of him." She gestured to Elon. Her mother turned to Elon, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you so much. I don't know how to express how thankful I am for what you did." Elon smiled. "It was nothing really. Just glad I could help." As he turned to leave, Ella waved at him one last time. "Goodbye, Elon." "Thank you." He waved back, giving her a reassuring nod. "Take care, Ella. Stay safe." As Elon Musk drove away, Ella stood at the door, still processing everything that had happened. That day, she had learned something invaluable, that heroes come in many forms, and sometimes, they show up when you least expect them. Ella's life had changed in a way she never expected. In the days after Elon Musk's intervention, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted in her, something deep. The fear she had felt when the bikers surrounded her was still fresh in her mind, but it had been overshadowed by the overwhelming sense of relief and gratitude. She had felt powerless in that moment, but in the end, she had been protected. And it wasn't just the physical safety that mattered, it was the emotional impact. She knew that someone had cared enough to step in, someone who didn't have to but did anyway. The next few days, she found herself replaying the moments in her mind. She had been terrified, yes, but the part that stuck with her the most was the feeling of being seen. When she looked up at Elon Musk, she didn't see a celebrity or a billionaire. She saw a person who understood that sometimes, doing the right thing meant stepping in when it wasn't easy. Ella walked to school the following week with a new sense of purpose. The usual anxiety she felt about social situations wasn't as strong anymore. She held her head a little higher, her steps a little more confident. There had been moments in her life before where she had doubted her own worth, unsure of where she fit in. But after that encounter, she knew she could face any challenge that came her way. At school, her friends noticed the change in her. They had seen how quiet and reserved she had always been, but now, there was something different. She was more willing to speak up, to engage with the world around her. One of her closest friends, Mia, noticed the difference immediately. "You're different," Mia said one afternoon after school, walking with Ella along the sidewalk. "I don't know what it is, but you seem more confident lately." Ella smiled, feeling a warmth spread across her chest. "I guess I've just learned that I can handle things, you know? That I don't have to be scared all the time." Mia raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "What happened?" Ella paused for a moment, thinking about how to explain. She wasn't one to openly share her feelings, but there was something about Mia's curiosity that made her feel safe enough to talk. "I had an experience, a really scary one. she began, walking slowly, but someone helped me, someone really unexpected. Mia looked at her, her eyes wide. Who helped you? Ella's voice softened and she glanced around, making sure no one was listening. Elon Musk. Mia's jaw dropped. Wait, Elon Musk? Like the Elon Musk? Ella nodded, a slight grin on her face. Yeah. He was in the park that day, and when those bikers tried to, she hesitated, not wanting to relive the moment. Hurt me, he stepped in. He told them to leave me alone, and they did. It was like he knew exactly what to say. Mia blinked, trying to process the information. That's insane. I can't believe that happened. But I get what you mean. I've noticed how much more brave you seem. It's like something just clicked for you. Ella nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. I guess so. He gave me something I didn't even know I needed. He made me feel like I wasn't alone, you know? Mia smiled warmly. I think that's the most important thing. We all need to feel like we're seen. And it sounds like that's exactly what happened. A few weeks passed, and Ella's life began to settle into a new rhythm. She started to speak up more at school, her voice no longer as shaky when she raised her hand to answer a question. She had more confidence in her interactions with others, and she wasn't afraid to stand her ground. It wasn't just a surface-level change either. She felt like a new person, like she had discovered a strength within herself that she hadn't known existed. The fear that used to control her had lessened, replaced by a quiet resilience. She wasn't invincible, and she knew there would be challenges ahead, but she now understood that she was capable of handling them. One afternoon, as Ella was walking home from school, she saw a familiar face. It was Elon Musk standing by his black car, talking to someone. She had seen him on TV many times, but never up close like this. She hesitated for a moment, unsure of whether to approach him. After all, he was a billionaire, and she was just a kid. But then she remembered how he had made her feel, like she mattered. With a deep breath, Ella walked toward him. Elon noticed her approaching and smiled warmly as she got closer. Ella, right? He asked, his voice as kind as she remembered. How are you doing? Ella felt a little nervous but stood tall. I'm doing great. Thank you again for helping me that day. It really meant a lot to me. Elon nodded, a knowing look in his eyes. It was my pleasure. I'm glad you're doing well. Ella felt a sudden sense of boldness, something inside her clicking. I've been thinking a lot about what you said that day, she said, about how we all have a choice to make a difference. And I wanted to tell you that I'm going to try and be braver from now on. I want to make a difference, too. Elon raised an eyebrow, impressed. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need more of. Bravery doesn't always mean doing something huge. It's about making the right choices, even when it's hard. Ella nodded enthusiastically. I know now that I don't have to be afraid all the time. I can speak up and help others, just like you did for me. Elon's expression softened, his smile widening. That's the spirit. You have everything it takes, Ella. Just remember that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about facing those fears and still doing what's right. Ella smiled, feeling her heart swell. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. With a final wave, she turned and walked home, her steps light and confident. She had learned something that day, something she would carry with her for the rest of her life. Sometimes, heroes don't wear capes or costumes. Sometimes, they're just ordinary people who make the choice to do the right thing. As Ella grew, the lesson Elon had taught her continued to resonate. She found herself helping classmates, standing up for others who were being treated unfairly, and stepping in when she saw someone in need. The park, once a place where she had felt scared, had now become a symbol of everything she had learned. It was the place where she had learned to stand up for herself, and where she had realized that the world was full of people willing to help. And though she never saw Elon Musk again in person, she carried his message with her every day. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about making the right choice, no matter the circumstances. That was what would change her life and the lives of those around her. One day, years later, Ella would find herself standing in front of a group of young students, ready to speak at a school assembly. She would tell them the story of the day a man named Elon Musk had shown her what it meant to be brave. And she would remind them, just as he had reminded her, it's not about waiting for a hero, It's about being the hero in your own story." And as she spoke, she would smile, knowing that the lessons she had learned that day would continue to ripple through the world, affecting others just as they had affected her. The years flew by, and Ella grew from the shy, introverted child she had once been into a confident, compassionate young woman. She never forgot the day that changed everything for her, the day Elon Musk had stepped in to help her in the park. His words had stayed with her, echoing in the back of her mind as she navigated her teenage years. Ella had always been an excellent student, but now she was becoming someone others looked up to. Her teachers admired her willingness to help her peers, to stand up for what was right, and to bring people together. What had started as small acts of bravery and kindness soon became something much larger, a personal mission to make a difference in her community. At 17, Ella found herself organizing events at her school aimed at raising awareness for various causes. Her school had seen an influx of students coming from different backgrounds, many of whom faced challenges that went unnoticed by the broader community. Ella knew she could use her position to bring attention to these issues. One afternoon, after school, Ella sat with a group of her friends in the library. They were discussing their latest project, a fundraiser for a local shelter that supported homeless families. Ella had been inspired by the shelter's ability to help so many in need, and she knew it was time to step up. The fundraiser would not only raise money but also highlight the importance of community outreach. "We need to get the word out," Ella said, her voice filled with purpose. "The community needs to see how important this shelter is. It's not just about raising funds, it's about showing people how they can make a difference, too." Mia, one of Ella's closest friends, nodded in agreement. "We can spread the word through social media, but we also need to get more people involved. Maybe we can host an awareness event on the school grounds." Ella's eyes sparkled with excitement. "That's a great idea. We can invite local businesses to participate and even get the community center involved. The more people we get, the bigger impact we can have." The group of friends, all committed to making a difference, began brainstorming ideas for the event. They worked tirelessly over the next few weeks, gathering donations, planning the logistics, and promoting the cause. Ella poured her heart into the project, knowing it was a step in the right direction. At the same time, Ella continued to live out the lessons she had learned from Elon Musk. She saw every opportunity as a chance to be the change, to use her voice, her platform, and her abilities to make a tangible impact. The day of the fundraiser arrived, and the event was a resounding success. The school's lawn was filled with booths from local vendors, with volunteers from various organizations offering their time and expertise. Ella moved through the crowd, checking in with everyone, making sure things were running smoothly. The energy was palpable, and Ella felt a deep sense of pride as she looked around at the crowd of people who had come together to support the cause. By the end of the day, they had raised more money than they had ever hoped for, and Ella knew that the real victory lay in the connections they had made and the awareness they had raised. Ella's growing influence didn't stop at school. After the success of the fundraiser, she started to feel a greater sense of responsibility to continue making a difference. She realized that leadership wasn't just about taking charge, it was about inspiring others to take action too. Ella had a natural ability to connect with people, to help them see the value of working together. Her peers started coming to her with ideas for other community projects, and it didn't take long for Ella to become known as the girl who could turn a dream into a reality. Her high school principal even took notice, offering her the opportunity to speak at the graduation ceremony that year. "I'm so proud of you, Ella," her principal said one afternoon, after seeing the incredible work she had done. "You've made such a difference in this school. I think you're ready to inspire the next generation." Ella felt her heart swell at the recognition. "Thank you. I want to continue making a difference, not just here, but wherever I can." Her principal smiled. "I have no doubt you will." The day of the graduation ceremony arrived, and Ella stood on stage in front of the entire student body. Her heart raced as she looked out at the faces of her classmates, teachers, and their families. This was a moment she had dreamed of for years, but she never imagined it would feel this significant. "Thank you all for being here today," Ella began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "This is a day of celebration, but it's also a day of reflection. When I think about the people who have influenced my life, I think about the moments that have changed me. The day I had a scary encounter in the park, the day when Elon Musk, a complete stranger, stepped in and reminded me that one person can make a difference. Those moments shaped who I am today. She paused for a moment, letting her words sink in. We all have the power to make a difference. It's not always easy, and it doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments, the choices we make every day. We can choose to be kind. We can choose to speak up when we see something wrong. We can choose to help those in need, even when it feels like our actions won't change much. But those choices add up. Together, we can change the world. The room was silent, the audience hanging on her every word. So, as we move forward from this day, I ask each of you to think about the difference you can make in your own way. The world needs more bravery, more kindness, and more people willing to stand up for what's right. And it starts with us. The crowd erupted into applause, and Ella felt a rush of warmth spread through her chest. This was more than just a graduation speech. It was a call to action, a reminder that they were all capable of making a difference, no matter how small. As Ella moved into her first year of college, she continued to apply the lessons she had learned growing up. She chose to study social sciences, driven by a desire to better understand the issues people faced and to find solutions. Her coursework and extracurricular activities were all aligned with her mission, to help those who needed it most, and to inspire others to do the same. One afternoon, while attending a guest lecture on social change, Ella was once again reminded of the profound impact small actions can have. The professor, an expert in community-based activism, spoke about the importance of grassroots efforts, how individuals and small groups of passionate people could spark change on a larger scale. It was the same message Elon Musk had shared with her years ago, and it resonated deeply. Ella raised her hand during the Q&A session. How can we empower more people to get involved in grassroots efforts, especially those who may not see themselves as leaders? The professor smiled, clearly impressed by Ella's question. It's about creating opportunities for people to make a difference in their own way. Leadership isn't just about having a title, it's about empowering others to take action, to see that their contributions matter, no matter how big or small. Ella nodded, her heart swelling with a renewed sense of purpose. She had always believed that everyone had the potential to lead, to make an impact. And now, with her education and experiences, she felt equipped to help others realize that potential. As Ella continued her studies, she expanded her reach beyond her college campus. She began volunteering with organizations that focused on youth empowerment and sustainable development. She worked with local nonprofits, organizing workshops to help young people understand the importance of civic engagement, and she even helped design a program that encouraged college students to participate in community-based projects. Her efforts did not go unnoticed. As she approached the end of her college years, Ella was invited to speak at a national youth leadership conference, where she was able to share her story, the lessons she had learned, and how small acts of heroism could change the world. As she stood at the podium, looking out at the hundreds of students in the audience, she realized that everything she had gone through, everything she had learned, had led to this moment. The encounter in the park, the words of Elon Musk, and the experiences that followed had shaped her into someone capable of leading and inspiring others. And she wasn't done yet. Change doesn't happen overnight, Ella said, addressing the crowd. But it does happen, one choice at a time. And it starts with all of us. The crowd erupted in applause, and Ella felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She knew that this was just the beginning of a much larger journey, one where she would continue to make a difference, just as she had always dreamed. Ella's efforts had only grown more impactful as she transitioned from her college years into adulthood. By the time she graduated, her reputation had preceded her, not just as a student who excelled academically, but as someone who genuinely cared about making a difference. She was offered a position at a well-known nonprofit organization that focused on empowering underprivileged youth and helping them navigate education and career pathways. The role was exactly what she had hoped for. It allowed her to continue her mission, but now with the resources and the platform to reach far more people. The first few months were a whirlwind of learning, building relationships, and understanding the challenges these young people faced. Ella's team was dedicated and hardworking, but the challenges ahead were not insignificant. The organization was working with teenagers from various backgrounds, many of whom had been displaced from their homes, lived in poverty, or struggled with identity and self-worth. But even in the face of these daunting issues, Ella never faltered. She took every challenge as an opportunity to learn and grow. She quickly discovered that the most powerful tool she had wasn't her degree, her knowledge, or the resources at her disposal. It was her ability to listen. So many of the young people she worked with just needed someone to hear them, someone who didn't judge them, someone who understood their struggles without making them feel weak or incapable. It was during one of her sessions at the community center that she met Jaden, a quiet 16-year-old boy who had been in and out of the foster care system for years. Jaden had a reputation for being withdrawn, for acting out in class, and for pushing people away. Ella had heard about him from her colleagues, but nothing prepared her for the first time they met. He sat in the back of the room, arms crossed, eyes scanning the floor. He wasn't interested in what she had to say, not at first. Ella didn't rush him. She simply continued the session, focusing on the rest of the group, letting the discussion unfold. She could see the way Jaden would glance up from time to time, watching her carefully. He was testing her, and she knew it. But instead of trying to fix Jim, she treated him like anyone else, offering him space to talk if he wanted to. After several weeks of building trust, Jaden began to open up, albeit in small, tentative ways. One afternoon, after a group meeting, Jaden approached her. He didn't say anything at first, but his body language spoke volumes. He shifted nervously from one foot to the other, avoiding eye contact. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked quietly. Ella smiled softly, her heart warm with the knowledge that he had chosen her as the one to confide in. "Of course, Jaden. What's on your mind?" He hesitated for a moment before speaking, his voice barely above a whisper. "You don't give up on people. I don't really know why, but I feel like you actually care." Ella's heart ached at his words. She had heard so many young people say something similar, how rare it was for someone to truly listen, but it still struck her deeply every time. "I do care, Jaden," she said gently. "Everyone deserves to be heard. And you're no different. You matter." Jaden looked up at her, his eyes filled with uncertainty. "But people don't always feel that way about me. They think I'm trouble, that I'm just gonna mess up." Ella knelt down to his level, making sure to maintain eye contact. It's easy for people to judge when they don't understand what someone's been through. "But I believe in you, Jaden. I believe that you can make a choice to rise above what others think of you." He stared at her for a long moment, the words sinking in. It was a turning point for him, one of many in his life, but this was the first time he had heard someone say it with such sincerity. He didn't say anything else, but Ella could see the shift in his posture, the subtle change in his demeanor. It was the beginning of something important, a foundation of trust that would take time to build but that would ultimately allow him to open up. As weeks turned into months, Ella found herself working even harder to build programs that gave these young people opportunities to thrive. She had come to understand that education was a powerful tool, but it wasn't enough on its own. She made sure her programs didn't just focus on academic success, they also aimed to nurture emotional intelligence and resilience. It was one of these programs that brought Ella into contact with a young girl named Lily, who was 13 years old and came from a family that struggled with addiction. Lily had a fierce intelligence but was consistently late to school, frequently absent, and disinterested in the lessons. Her teachers were at a loss about how to help her. But when Ella met Lily, she saw the potential hidden beneath the surface. Like many of the kids she worked with, Lily had faced hardships that most adults couldn't even fathom, but Ella refused to let those hardships define her. Instead of focusing on Lily's academic performance, Ella spent time getting to know her, listening to her stories, understanding her struggles, and making sure she knew she was supported no matter what. Slowly but surely, Lily started to engage more, asking questions during lessons and showing up to group activities with a sense of eagerness that was new for her. One afternoon, after a particularly engaging lesson on goal setting, Lily stayed behind after the session ended. Ella approached her, sensing something on her mind. "You did great today, Lily," Ella said, her voice full of encouragement. "You really engaged with the material." Lily bit her lip, looking down at her hands. I want to do better, she said, almost to herself. I know I can. I'm scared. My mom keeps saying it's not gonna matter, that I'm just like everyone else in our family. Ella knelt in front of her, her expression softening. You're not like everyone else, Lily. You have a choice. You can be whatever you want to be, and I'm here to help you get there. You're more than your circumstances. Lily looked up at her, her eyes wide. You really believe that? Ella nodded, her heart full. I do. And I'll be here every step of the way to make sure you know that. Lily smiled, the first genuine smile Ella had seen in weeks. Thanks, Ella. I don't want to let you down. You won't, Ella said, standing up and brushing off her knees. But remember, you don't have to do this alone. We're in this together. The work Ella had done in the nonprofit sector began to gain recognition. Her programs were expanding, and the children she had worked with were starting to show significant improvement, not just academically, but emotionally. The organization asked her to take on a larger role, overseeing multiple projects across the city. With her new responsibilities came more pressure, but Ella never wavered. She was used to it now, the challenges, the long hours, and the unwavering belief that what she was doing mattered. But she still found time to stay connected with the kids she had worked with personally. Every few months, she would visit Jaden and Lily to check in, to offer guidance, and to remind them that their journeys were just beginning. She became their mentor, their advocate, and in many ways, their role model. One afternoon, after a long day at the office, Ella was sitting at her desk when she received a call. It was from Jaden. She answered, surprised by the urgency in his voice. Ella, I need to talk to you, Jaden said, his voice shaky. I've got a huge decision to make, and I don't know what to do. Ella's heart skipped a beat. Jaden, what's going on? Talk to me. I got an offer from a tech company, he said, a nervous laugh escaping his lips. They want to hire me as an intern for their IT department, but I'm not sure if I should take it. It's a big opportunity, and I don't know if I'm ready. Ella leaned back in her chair, her thoughts racing. She could hear the fear in his voice, but she also knew that he had come so far from the boy she had first met. Jaden, I know this is a big step, but remember everything you've overcome. You're ready for this. I believe in you, and you have the skills to do it. Jaden was silent for a moment, and Ella knew he was taking it all in. Then finally he spoke. Thanks, Ella. I think I'm gonna do it. I just needed someone to tell me I could. You've got this, Ella said firmly. And I'll be here to help you every step of the way. The next time Ella spoke to him, Jaden told her he had officially accepted the internship offer. His words were full of confidence, and Ella couldn't help but feel proud. Jaden's journey was just beginning, but she knew that this was his moment to shine, just as she had once done herself. As Ella sat back in her chair, reflecting on how far she had come, she realized something. She had created a ripple effect. It had all started with a simple act of heroism in the park, and now she was standing at the forefront of a movement, changing lives, and inspiring others to do the same. And she wasn't finished yet. Ella had come a long way since her first encounter with Elon Musk. The shy girl who had once been unsure of her own strength had transformed into a young woman with a clear sense of purpose and an unwavering commitment to making a difference. With her new role at the nonprofit organization, her journey had only just begun. One of her first major projects in her new position was to launch a mentorship program for at-risk youth. The idea was simple but powerful. Pair young people with mentors who could provide guidance, encouragement, and a sense of community. Ella knew that many of the kids she had worked with came from broken homes or difficult situations. She also knew that many of them didn't have positive role models in their lives. This program was her way of giving them the support they needed to succeed. Over the course of the next several months, Ella worked tirelessly to bring the program to life. She reached out to local businesses, schools, and universities to recruit mentors who were willing to dedicate their time and expertise. It was challenging work, but Ella thrived under pressure. She was determined to make the program a success, to give these young people the tools they needed to rise above their circumstances. As the program began to take shape, Ella found herself growing even more connected to the community. She spent hours getting to know the kids, learning about their dreams, their struggles, and the challenges they faced every day. For many of them, their lives had been defined by hardship and disappointment. But Ella saw something different in them. She saw potential, and she was determined to help them see it too. One afternoon, while meeting with a group of men's, Ella was introduced to a young girl named Zoe. Zoe was 14 years old, and she had an energy about her that was both infectious and intimidating. She had the kind of charisma that made people stop and take notice, but she also carried a weight that made her seem older than she was. Zoe had been through more than any child should, and Ella could see it in her eyes. At first, Zoe kept her distance, reluctant to engage with the program. She had been in and out of foster care for most of her life and had learned not to trust people. But Ella wasn't intimidated. She knew that in order to reach Zoe, she needed to meet her where she was. She needed to understand her, to show her that she wasn't just another case, another statistic. So, Zoe, Ella said one afternoon, as they sat together in the program's small conference room. What's something you've always wanted to do? Something you're passionate about? Zoe glanced up at her but didn't say anything at first. She shifted in her seat, looking around the room as if the question had caught her off guard. I don't know, Zoe muttered finally. Maybe I want to be a photographer. I like to take pictures, but I don't really think I'm good enough for it to be a career or something. Ella smiled softly, recognizing the familiar self-doubt. You don't have to be perfect to start something. You just have to take the first step. Everyone has to start somewhere. Zoe's eyes flicked up at Ella, and for the first time, Ella saw a glimmer of something in her, hope, maybe, or the beginnings of a belief in herself. I used to feel the same way when I was your age, Ella continued, her voice soft but sure. I was scared that I wasn't good enough or that no one would care. But the only way to get better is to try. Zoe didn't respond right away, but she didn't pull away either. Ella could tell that Zoe was thinking about it, weighing the possibility that she might actually be able to follow her passion. Weeks passed, and Zoe's attitude began to shift. She started showing up more often to the mentorship sessions, participating more actively in group discussions, and even sharing her photography with Ella. Ella encouraged her to pursue her interests, to experiment with her camera, and to never let anyone make her feel small for wanting something bigger. Ella's heart swelled with pride as she watched Zoe's confidence grow. It wasn't an easy journey, but Ella knew it was worth every bit of effort. She had seen the changes in so many of the kids she worked with, but there was something about Zoe that reminded her of herself, the quiet strength waiting to be discovered. But Zoe wasn't the only one Ella was helping. There were dozens of kids, each with their own struggles and dreams. And as Ella worked with them, she felt a deeper sense of purpose. She realized that her role as a mentor wasn't just about giving advice or offering guidance, it was about creating space for these kids to find their own paths. It was about giving them the confidence to believe in themselves and the tools to build their futures. Months later, the mentorship program was flourishing. Ella's team had recruited more mentors than they could have imagined, and the kids who participated were showing remarkable progress. They were becoming more engaged in their studies, more confident in their abilities, and more willing to step outside their comfort zones. Zoe, in particular, had blossomed. Her photography skills had improved dramatically, and she had started to build an impressive portfolio. She even began volunteering at local events, offering her photography services to charities and nonprofit organizations. It wasn't long before she received an internship offer from a well-known photography studio. It was a dream come true for Zoe, and Ella couldn't have been prouder. But Ella knew that the work didn't stop there. She had seen firsthand how difficult it was to break the cycle of poverty, abuse, and neglect. She had witnessed the strength and determination of these young people, but she also understood the challenges they still faced. The road to success wasn't easy, and there were always more obstacles to overcome. But Ella also knew that they had created something powerful, a community. A community where people could come together, support one another, and believe in the possibility of a better future. And that, Ella realized, was the real change. As time went on, Ella's work began to get noticed outside of the organization. She was invited to speak at conferences, to share her story and the success of the mentorship program. She became a voice for the underserved youth she worked with, advocating for policies that supported education, mental health, and access to resources for young people in need. Her impact was undeniable. Ella had not only helped these young people find their voices, but she had found her own as well. She had learned that it wasn't enough to just talk about change, it was about actively creating it, day by day, step by step. One afternoon, Ella received a call that would take her work to an entirely new level. The National Youth Advocacy Organization had taken notice of her mentorship program, and they wanted her to help lead a nationwide initiative aimed at providing mentorship opportunities for underserved youth across the country. At first, Ella was hesitant. This was a huge undertaking, one that would require her to expand her work on an entirely new scale. But she knew in her heart that this was the next step. If she could help these kids in her community, why couldn't she help kids across the nation? With the support of her team and the organization, Ella dove headfirst into the project. She spent countless hours collaborating with local leaders, schools, and community centers to create a framework that could be implemented nationwide. The initiative was designed to give young people the same opportunities she had helped provide locally: access to mentors, resources, and the belief that they could create their own futures. As the initiative launched, Ella found herself at the forefront of a movement that was creating tangible change for the next generation. And while she knew there was still much work to be done, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had come full circle from the young girl in the park who had felt powerless to the woman standing at the helm of a nationwide effort to empower young people. One evening, as Ella sat at her desk, reviewing reports and emails, she received a message from Zoe. It was simple but heartfelt. "Thank you, Ella. I wouldn't be where I am today without you. You helped me believe in myself when I didn't think it was possible. You changed my life, and I'll never forget it." Ella smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek as she read the message. She knew that this was why she had dedicated her life to this work. Not for recognition or accolades, but for moments like this. For the knowledge that she had helped someone find their voice and their future. It wasn't just about the work she did. It was about the relationships she built, the trust she earned, and the lives she touched. Ella had changed lives, and in turn, those lives had changed hers.